High five and a warm welcome to everyone tuning in. You've just stepped into the Fluency Lab, the only place where we dissect the English language until it makes perfect sense. I'm Leo, and I promise to be on my best behavior today.
We'll see about that, Leo. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. It's lovely to have you back with us. Today, we're exploring the dark side of vocabulary. We aren't talking about being nice or kind. We're talking about negative personality traits.
Right, because let's be honest, life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes you need to describe someone who is difficult, and bad or angry just isn't specific enough. Today we're mastering words like cynical, stubborn, and gullible. And I have to say, looking at this list, I feel a little called out.
Well, they say the first step is admitting you have a problem. Let's start with one everyone knows but often misuses, or at least misunderstands the psychology behind: stubborn.
This is definitely me. My mom used to call me as stubborn as a mule. I never quite understood why it was a mule specifically. Why not a horse?
That's a classic idiom. Mules were historically bred as pack animals, and if they sensed danger or were overworked, they would simply freeze and refuse to move no matter how much you pushed them. A stubborn person is exactly like that mule, someone who refuses to change their mind or their opinion, even when there is a good reason to do so.
But wait, isn't being strong-willed a good thing? If I'm an entrepreneur or an athlete, don't I need to be stubborn to succeed?
That is a brilliant question, and it brings us to the nuance of the word. Strong-willed, determined, or having grit, those are positive. They imply you are sticking to a goal despite difficulties. Stubbornness, however, usually implies you are sticking to a position despite evidence.
So determination is sticking to a goal. Stubbornness is sticking to your ego.
Precisely. In psychology, there's actually a concept called reactance theory, proposed by Jack Brem back in the 1960s. It explains that when a person feels their freedom of choice is being threatened, like when someone tells you what to do, you instinctively push back just to prove you still have control. That emotional pushback, that's stubbornness. It's not about being right, it's about autonomy.
That makes so much sense. It's why when you tell a toddler or me not to push a button, it becomes the only thing in the world we want to do. We're reclaiming our freedom.
Exactly. So if you use the word stubborn, you are usually criticizing someone for being unreasonable. For example, he's so stubborn. He won't even look at the new data because he wants to do it his way.
Okay, let's flip the coin. What about the opposite? Someone with no resistance at all. Someone who believes everything you say.
That brings us to gullible. If you're gullible, you are easily tricked or cheated because you trust people too much.
Oh, I have a friend like this. I once told him that gullible wasn't in the dictionary, and he actually went to check.
That is the literal definition of gullible, and that joke works because it exploits the person's trust. The etymology here is actually fascinating and a bit debated. Most linguists agree it comes from the word gull, which is an old term for a fledgling bird.
A baby bird? Because they just open their mouths and swallow whatever their mom drops in?
Exactly. They swallow anything without inspecting it, just like a gullible person swallows a lie without chewing on it first. But here's the interesting thing scientifically. Being gullible isn't necessarily a sign of stupidity.
It feels like it is.
It feels that way, but there's a theory called truth default theory by researcher Tim Levine. It suggests that human beings are hardwired to believe each other. Evolutionarily, if we had to fact-check every single thing our tribe members said, we'd never get anything done. So our default setting is true.
So being gullible is actually just being human? I like that interpretation. It makes me feel better about that time I bought those magic beans on the internet.
Well, there is a limit. Being trusting is good. Being gullible means you ignore red flags. It's the difference between optimism and negligence. For instance, I can't believe you fell for that scam. You're way too gullible.
Got it. So don't be a baby bird. Inspect the worm before you eat it. Now let's talk about my favorite dark word, cynical. This sounds very intellectual, doesn't it?
It does. It's a heavy word. A cynical person believes that people are motivated purely by self-interest. They don't believe in selfless acts. If you do something nice for a cynic, they think, What do they want from me? What's the catch?
So a cynic is basically someone who has lost faith in humanity.
Precisely. But the history of this word is wild. It actually comes from ancient Greece. There was a philosopher named Diogenes, you might have heard of him, who was the original cynic.
Wait, is he the guy who lived in a jar?
He is. He lived in a large ceramic jar in Athens. The word cynic comes from the Greek word kynikos, meaning dog-like. Diogenes lived on the street like a dog to prove a point that social status, money, and power were all fake. He believed the only thing that mattered was virtue and living in accordance with nature.
So originally, being a cynic was about rejecting consumerism? That sounds kind of noble. How did we get from there to grumpy uncle who hates everyone?
Over centuries, the emphasis shifted from rejecting society's fake values to just rejecting people's goodness. Today, psychological research links cynical hostility to actual health problems. People who are highly cynical have higher rates of heart disease because they're constantly in a state of defense. They never relax because they think everyone is out to get them.
Wow, so cynicism is literally bad for your heart. That is a powerful reason to check your attitude. But how is this different from being a skeptic? I feel like I am a skeptic, but I don't want to be a cynic.
That is a vital distinction. A skeptic says, I need evidence before I believe you. A cynic says, I don't believe you and I never will, because you're lying. Skepticism is an open mind waiting for proof. Cynicism is a closed mind that has already decided.
I love that breakdown. Skepticism is intelligent, cynicism is prejudiced. Okay, let's add a couple more to the list. What about people who love their own reflection a bit too much?
That would be vain. If you are vain, you are obsessed with your appearance or your achievements. Think of the character Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, totally. He's the definition of vain. But is that the same as conceited?
Very close, but there is a nuance. Conceited comes from the word concept or to conceive. A conceited person has an inflated concept of themselves in their mind. Vain is often about the mirror, physical beauty. Conceited is about the mind, believing you are smarter, more talented, or superior to everyone else.
So a model might be vain, but a professor might be conceited.
Exactly, though of course you can be both. We often group these under the psychological umbrella of narcissism, named after the Greek myth of Narcissus, the hunter who fell in love with his own reflection in a pool of water and died because he couldn't stop looking at himself.
A tragic end for a vain man. You know, Emma, these words are quite strong. If I call my boss stubborn or conceited to his face, I might get fired. We always talk about diplomatic English in the lab. Is there a softer way to say these things?
Excellent point. You can't just walk around diagnosing people with personality disorders. We need euphemisms, softer words that convey the meaning without the sting.
Okay, hit me. How do I say stubborn without starting a fight?
Instead of stubborn, you can say, he can be quite set in his ways. This phrase suggests that it's just a habit he's had for a long time, rather than a character flaw.
Oh, set in his ways sounds much more polite. It's like saying he's just an old dog who doesn't want new tricks. It feels almost affectionate.
Exactly. And instead of gullible, which calls someone a fool, you can say she's a bit naive.
Naive, that sounds innocent, like they just don't have experience yet.
Yes, naive implies a lack of experience, whereas gullible implies a lack of critical thinking. It's a much kinder assessment. And for cynical, you can say, he's a bit of a skeptic, or he's very guarded.
Guarded is good. It implies they've been hurt before, which makes you feel empathy for them rather than annoyance. It changes the whole dynamic of the conversation.
That is the power of vocabulary. You can describe the exact same behavior, refusing to change a mind or doubting a motive, and by choosing strong-willed or guarded instead of pig-headed or cynical, you change how the listener perceives that person.
You know, looking at this list, I realize I'm a bit of a cynic when it comes to weather forecasts. I never believe them. I always carry an umbrella.
And I'm definitely stubborn when it comes to following GPS directions. I always think I know a shortcut. I'll argue with the nice lady in the phone until I'm stuck in traffic.
We all have our flaws. That's what makes us human. And honestly, a little bit of determination is probably what helps us learn a language in the first place.
Very true. You have to be a little stubborn to keep practicing irregular verbs when you want to give up. So let's recap the main traits we covered today.
We had stubborn, the mule who won't move, soft version, set in their ways.
We had Gullible, the baby bird who swallows everything, soft version, naive.
We had cynical, the philosopher in the jar who distrusts motives, soft version, skeptical or guarded.
And finally, vain and conceited, the difference between loving your mirror and loving your own mind.
So here is your homework for the week. We want you to look at a character from a movie, a book, or a TV show you're watching. Which of these words describes them best? Is Tony Stark conceited or just confident? Is Harry Potter brave or just stubborn?
Oh, that's a good one. I'd love to see your examples in the comments. Just maybe don't describe your neighbors or your spouse. That might get awkward if they translate it.
Solid advice. Keep the analysis fictional, folks. Well, that's it for today's dive into the darker side of personality. I hope you're feeling a little more vocabulary rich now.
Thanks for joining us in the lab. It's been an absolute pleasure. Keep observing the world, keep your ears open, and keep practicing.
Stay sharp, stay fluent, and don't be too cynical about your progress. You're doing great.
Take care, everyone. Cheerio.